Hey everyone, I'm Jose Otero, and this week I'm joined by Per Schneider, by Zach Ryan, and by Sam Claiborn.
We're 6 years old.
Welcome to Nintendo Voice Chat. This is NVC presents the best games Nintendo's made in 2016. Now, quick note at the top, we are not going to be talking about Nintendo's mobile efforts at all. We're going to focus on their platforms, so Wii U and 3DS. And we're going to kick things off with a Wii U discussion. So let's just list the nominees first. Paper Mario Color Splash, Pokken Tournament, Lego Star Wars The Force Awakens, Tokyo Mirage Sessions, Sharp FE, and SteamWorld Heist made the list of nominees this week. Per, I'm going to turn it over to you. Tell me why Paper Mario Color Splash is a Game of the Year contender for Wii U.
Well, you know, Paper Mario is this beloved, storied franchise that Nintendo's been running for so many years, and I think some people were dreading this this game as being kind of, you know, another step into something that's more casual and not as RPG-like as some of the predecessors. And it was more casual fare, and it was lighter fare, but it was very, very clever. And I think anyone who started to play it quickly found this really awesome sense of humor, these kind of, you know, clever kind of character situations, and then of course the best lemons in any video game, right? So I think, you know, I think a lot of people were worried that this game wasn't going to live up to kind of the Mario quality standard, but I had a ton of fun with it. I really enjoyed it. I loved the game systems, and just the writing made me laugh. And few games make you laugh out loud.
Like a world that was 3D made out of paper that kind of folded up like origami style around the characters. It was like almost like a technological leap in how they could make a Paper Mario game.
Yeah, I mean, it is a beautiful game to look at, and to Per's point, it is extremely funny. Like, I do think it is really well written. The card battle system was a little cumbersome to me.
Yeah. One of the issues, that you had to kind of do these swipe moves. I mean, you could switch to an alternate control scheme that streamlined it, but it still wasn't that awesome. But the battles itself and the kind of tried and true, like hit the button at the right moment, those mechanics are really good, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
No, and definitely you're right? The fear was this was Sticker Star 2, and it was thereby that, this is going to be as forgettable. Yeah. The battles won't be meaningful because you've taken away the level mechanics. And we've talked about a lot on the show, I feel, this year, where Nintendo had to make a decision with their RPG games and how many they put out. And the Mario and Luigi series kind of took that. But it was nice to find a charming, colorful, very humorous game in there. And toads that share too much information, like constantly. That was kind of the running theme I felt through
the writing was
of
awesome.
The game.
All the jokes, like, it just made you smile, this game. And it had some RPG systems that were kind of hidden. You know, you don't have the overt leveling and experience point building that you would have in, the Thousand Year Door or any of these classic games, but they were underlying RPG elements that had you, kind of grow as a character and become more powerful. I really liked it.
All right. So let's then move over to Pokken Tournament. Now, this was a big collaboration for the Pokemon Company and Bandai Namco, a fighting game version of Pokemon, essentially, right? One that basically Harada-san of the Tekken team worked on, but was going for a simpler sort of Smash Brothers type setup, I feel, in terms of the simplicity.
It's not more like Tekken?
No, not at all. Okay. I didn't feel that. I felt like they were going more for the Smash style, but they ended up settling on this idea of switching between two different playing fields. Yeah. Definitely having one that was 3D versus then going to one that felt more like Tekken-ish, thereby 2D.
See, I disagree with your idea that it's not like Tekken, because I do feel like it does borrow quite a bit from Tekken.
Okay,
and
let's hear about it.
The fighting system is surprisingly deep. It is like one of those moments learned, lifetime to master kind of situations. I feel like given I played a limited amount, I played actually when I was in Japan playing on an arcade system, and like I really dug it.
That's really cool, by the way, that it came out as a new Nintendo arcade game. There's been a few of those.
I played it outside the Pokemon Center, and I got laughed at by some kids because I clearly didn't know what I was doing. But I played it for a while, and I really enjoyed it.
And I definitely hear where you're coming from. I think the point I was trying to make is more that the simplicity of controls, like having one button presses that lead to big looking moves, big distance attacks that thereby are easier to execute, not leaning on sort of the Street Fighter, like, you have to do like a quarter circle to do an input. But I hear you, right? It's a good hybrid of both. The thing that struck me was, I'd never seen Pokemon look better. Mechanically, it didn't pull me in as much, but there was a ton of depth there, which I thought was really cool, like having these sort of crazy finishing moves and these over-the-top sort of, like, you never really saw Pokemon really fight like this, but at the same time, they managed to sort of grasp and present the spirit of how Pokemon games are. At
Where
least
are
the
the
way
trainers
the
during
move.
all of this?
They're in the backgrounds, I think. Just
they're on an IFB. the thing about Pokken Tournament that I really dig is I feel like watching those characters fight each other in that setting and on an HD system is what Pokemon battles looked like in my head when I was a kid. Sure. You know, to me, it's like a fully realized Pokemon battle. I do agree with Sam, though. I wish I would have seen some trainers in there. But
absolutely. Or there was customization, but you definitely didn't see like a 3D trainer, and that perspective was missing. I do agree.
Oh, are you the trainer?
Hey,
the player,
there it is. So then, Sam, next Sam's up on the list is Lego Star Wars: The Force Awakens. This was by Traveler's Tales. Tell us why this is a Wii U game of the year.
You read off the names on this list. One is, I think, missing, obviously, and that's Star Fox. And Star Fox is a space combat game. The space combat in Lego Star Wars: The Force Awakens is really cool, and I think easier to play and easier to figure out and prettier in some respects than Star Fox.
Did it give you Rogue Squadron vibes? Like
it totally did.
And
so this time of year, I have these great memories of playing an amazing Star Wars game, Star Wars Rogue Squadron 2, Rebel Assault for GameCube, and that was a launch title for the GameCube. And I just love playing Star Wars space battle games. It's been a long time, and I think this one had good space battles. Couched around, like, I don't really like the Lego Star Wars games normally, just kind of playing through them, but I like the space battles. And then this one was actually pretty fun for the other parts too, especially co-op.
For me, it was missing that kind of that hub world that you can explore and like that expands as you get more power, so more characters. But what it did have, it introduced this cover mechanic, you know,
almost
where
like
you
a
duck behind
shooter.
things. Yeah, very Gears of War, you know, when you're having shootouts. And that was always one of the issues with the Lego games, that the gunplay just kind of felt really loose, and like, you know, your character would constantly die, and you're like, you don't really care. But with the cover mechanic, it added another strategic element that I think made it a better game.
I agree, and also it was really pretty. And on Wii U, it's still pretty. It's a really pretty game.
I think that Lego Star Wars put the whole Lego franchise on the map in terms of what they do for gaming, and there's been a deluge of Lego games that have come out since. Yeah. And this to me felt playing it like I felt when I was playing those original Lego Star Wars games. Like, it's just so much fun, and it's so great in couch co-op, and I really dug it.
And it's the quintessential like parent and kid play game. Like, you know, as a dad, like you can play this with two players together, and you just have a really good time, and you can give each other instructions on what to do. And you know, I think these games succeed on that level more than any others.
Well, and also they're very polished. I mean, and I do admit that I think the timing of this release worked in its favor. Like, not coming out with the movie, of course, every licensed game tries to do that and just be there day one when the movie comes out. This one showed up, I believe, in June or later on in the year.
We saw it after E3.
Yeah, and it was just like, oh man, that's right. I love this. It can do anything it wants to now because the movie's out. It doesn't have to couch everything behind, oh, maybe you haven't seen the movie, which sometimes licensed games fall into that trap. So it was really refreshing to have that. Our next game was an unlikely to me a year ago to make this list, but it has made it here. It is Tokyo Mirage Sessions, Sharp FE, by Atlas. This was a collaboration between Atlas and Nintendo. Zach, tell me about this game.
Just an awesome SMT-based RPG, you know, Shin Megami Tensei, on a system that is sort of devoid of traditional Japanese RPGs. It was really refreshing to play something like this, and it is wacky and over the top, and the team-up system, you know, the J-pop icons team up system. It's nuts, and it's so much fun to play and so beautiful to look at. Yeah.
So you're into the Atlas RPGs, but not Fire Emblem that much, or both?
I haven't played a ton of Fire Emblem. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like, you know, for Fire Emblem fans, it was like we were expecting a Fire Emblem game, like, you know, we got on the GameCube, for example, like a full-fledged game, and then we saw this, we're like, what is this, right?
Yeah. So to explain, Fire Emblem is a turn-based strategy game where you have a grid and a map, and you move units around. This is not that. This is you explore 3D areas, and then you get in turn-based fights.
It's very much an SMT game with Fire Emblem guest characters.
That's right. No, that's the best way to describe it.
They're part of the plot. They show up in your party, but occasionally, but it's not necessarily, you know, like, it doesn't borrow heavily from the actual mechanics of the Fire Emblem
characters were sort of the personas of this world.
Exactly.
And there was sort of that guardian spirit attachment, you know, the idea that you can then make modifications and that they grow over time. Their skill set changes over time. Very colorful game. Really beautiful, like its presentation as well. Like, just something as simple as going to the menu and seeing the entire party sort of laying on the grass, just all staring at you like, we're just hanging out.
I really like that. And as you accumulate more party members, you know, they're all there hanging out too. And it's a very cool game.
And it's not rhythm based. I was watching all these videos. It's just a turn based RPG.
The music is there strictly
but
for
it's all
like
about
narrative.
Music, right?
Yeah.
So if you were into J-pop,
the music is killer.
It's really good.
It's set in Japan, and the way that they recreate Tokyo especially is really, really cool for Japanophiles like myself. Like, it's very fun.
I'm with you. Yeah, I think to me, it is the half step to Persona 5, which is the game that next year a lot of people in the West are going to they can't wait to get their hands on, and deservedly so, for the most part.
And I'm going to give this my award for probably will be the rarest Wii U game on this list.
Not really, not Devil's Third.
It'll be collectible.
Yeah,
obviously
I think so
that
too.
is, but that it was a discontinued, right?
Yeah, no, true. Yeah,
this can be collectible,
and it went quickly. Next up on our list in the turn-based world is SteamWorld Heists. Now, this was by developer Image and Form, and it scored very well. Now, really quickly, the 3DS version came out in December, but the Wii U version came out this year, which is why I made this list.
Right, and there's a collection, obviously, with Dig and Heist, and you can play both of them on the Wii U. Heist is a game that I fell in love with on the 3DS, and I am big into Fire Emblem, into turn-based games. I love RTSs as well, and this game is basically, it's a side view turn-based shooter where strategy game where you use your robots to kind of invade spaceships and space stations, and you have to set them up. It's kind of like the old pen and paper games where you draw little lines between two characters or two tanks and try to take them out. That's what this is, but you can upgrade, you get new weapons, and it has that same sense of kind of friction where sometimes you make a move and you move your character into a spot and you think you're so cool, and then you go, oh crap, I didn't see that turret, and then you're sweating that it's gonna kill your character, and it's just really tense. I really enjoyed this game.
And for a 2D presentation, that's a remarkable thing to be able to pull off, I feel, especially because I feel like in 2D, I didn't think a game like this would hook me as well as this one did.
And it looks good, and it's got a really funny sense of humor too. Like the robots are basically junk. They just kind of look like they're duct taped together, and like they just have kind of funny jokes, and like they're kind of cranky, and you even land at a space station where you go into bars and stuff. It's just a really kind of unique game. Like,
and
I can't think of anything.
2-pack with Dig?
Yeah.
So I know that was last year, but SteamWorld Dig is really fun.
Dig's awesome too.
And so no reason not to play that if you
it's a really cute universe, and I hope it lives on. And we'll get more of that.
They continue to develop it, but definitely a strong game. So then let's transition over to the best 3DS games of 2016. Now, these are the nominees in that category. So we have Rhythm Heaven Mega Mix, we have Kirby Planet Robobot, I hope I said that right, Pokemon Sun and Moon, Fire Emblem Fates, Zero Time Dilemma, and Monster Hunter Generations. So the genres are all over the map on this list.
May I say a stronger lineup than the Wii U?
Yes. It was definitely a rough year for Wii U this year, more so I feel than in years past. But at the same time, kicking things off, then let's go with Rhythm Heaven Mega Mix, which is one of my favorite.
You like the whole series, right?
Yeah, I've been on board. I got introduced on DS and went back and tried the Game Boy Advance version. The best thing about this version is it is the greatest hits album of all of them.
Yeah.
So you like the goofy music.
Love the goofy music, love the goofy situation.
It's so fun.
It's funny. Yeah. And then the art style is kind of like the WarioWare style.
And it's the WarioWare team. It's a fantastic experience, I feel, because it manages to tap into sort of the nervousness that comes with performance in very subtle but humorous ways. When you're on stage, if this podcast right here was a musical minigame, if I wasn't hitting my beats right, you would see Sam or Pear or Zach look over with a concerned brow as the game was unfolding.
Anyway, but
it's true. But it's the wacky music tied in with these situations that I feel really make it work. And when you manage to nail every beat, it is such a satisfying feeling.
I played the demo on your import 3DS, and I had not played a Rhythm Heaven game before. And one of the levels on the demo was these two like wolf boys chopping wood together, and I was like, I pray to God that they bring this stateside, because I am 100% in, and I played the hell out of this game, and it's so much fun. The music is so great, and it's challenging, and it gets really difficult as it goes on.
To me, again, it's like the comedy is just golden in this game. It's got this WarioWare sensibility, right, where it's like weird things like the nose hair pulling kind of joke. Like Japanese love that kind of nose hair pulling in video games for some reason. But like whether it's sumo slapping each other or just a simple like seeing fruit bounce tunnels downstairs. And then it's like it's a pineapple and it's oddly shaped, and even that is funny. Like the way they pull that off is so good.
They do manage to cram just a ton of humor out of very few mundane assets.
Stuff.
Yeah, my only low point with this game was that they chose to add a story to it, and they tried to develop that, and it's something that I just wanted to get through quickly. I just found myself like, look, this is charmingly written. I get it, but like, I just want to get to the next thing. Yeah,
like
I found myself
and a delivering pizza storyline.
I hate the coin flip, man.
But see, that was one smart achievement because mini games like the coin flip were optional, and this one it forced you to try it. They eventually would give you a pass if you failed enough time. The guys who you had to
I took
basically
that pass
defeat.
A few times.
Yeah, but we would play it, and Brian and I played it, and he kept trying to talk to me during it.
Dude,
Let's play.
That Let's Play is really awesome.
That is one of my favorite Let's Plays on IGN. Yeah, it's a shame. Look for it.
You're
if
like, you
can.
keep talking, I got to win this.
Yep.
Exactly.
And that doesn't work.
Not a good airplane game though, because you really got to concentrate. You got to hear everything really well, and you'll start tapping, and people look at you funny.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you're playing that game on the airport, people will give you people will give you funny looks.
But a good portable game, I feel like the console versions have never been that great for it.
No. I will say that they nailed it this time around. Next candidate is Kirby Planet Robobot, which introduced something new in the form of a gigantic robot. Zach, tell me more about this.
Ooh, baby, I love Kirby. I mean, I like Kirby games. I don't think that they're the greatest platformers. I don't think that they're my favorite Nintendo games, but I play them, and I was completely blown away by Robobot. It's a really hard word to say. I think the suit mechanic is great. I loved experimenting with different suits, mech suits, and trying out the different weapons and stuff like that. I think what's even more interesting is the collection in that game. I think that it's not a particularly challenging platformer. It is gorgeous and fun to play, but I think the challenge comes in solving the puzzles that are hidden in those levels to gather all three cyber cubes, I think they're called. And I love the it only happens in a couple levels, but the levels where you control a tiny robot in the background or in the foreground of the screen it reminded me a lot of Inside this year, which is another fantastic game. And Kirby had his own particular spin on that. And the final boss is this psychedelic, like epic, hour-long spaceship boss battle that it just blew my mind. I was playing it on a really long plane ride coming home, and I kept having to run up to the front of the plane to show Altano, have you seen this? Because he wasn't super keen on playing it. I was like, look at how crazy this is. You got to play this game. It's so good.
There's the Kirby games are sometimes called beginner games, right? They're not that hard. You get liberal amount of health and food to replenish your health. But this one, I thought it had really clever elements with the weapons first of all, and the mechs, and then that. This is one of the few games that I think I'll remember as using 3D on the 3DS really well, with the 2 layers or cars coming in from the distance. There's that whole kind of bus section where you have to avoid the cars hitting you, and so cool.
I admired a lot how they worked those robots into the power-up system, and how the power-up system then made those that robot suit even crazier. You'd be slicing through enemies like it was no deal. And I think every boss fight in the single player really surprised me. I need to get to that last boss fight though to see that. And like any really good Kirby game, it came value packed with all these other modes, which even if they're some of them are more forgettable than others, I still found okay, I'm willing to try these, and if I have other friends around who can try them with me, I had a good time. Yeah.
I'm still not going to play it. Sorry. I've been burned too many times by that little pink guy.
Sam Claiborn, ever the hater on Kirby.
Kirby grudge, full life.
I didn't say I hated it.
You'd like this one.
Just said I've been burnt.
All right. But I was going to say, speaking of burnt, and that wasn't going to be a good segue, but what is a good segue is to talk about probably the biggest 3DS game of this year, which is Pokemon Sun and Pokemon Moon.
Yeah, I'm going to let you finish, Jose, but, Pokemon Go was the real winning. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. No,
also, you can't talk about how good a segue is in the middle of a segue.
Yeah.
But
I always hate that
you
too.
You could have gone with Charmander, something with the burning.
Raiding it back in. Tell me, Sun and Moon, Sun and Moon. What do we got?
Well, here's the thing. I'm serious when I say Pokemon Go. I love that game this year, and what that game had was the first 151 Pokemon. Talked about them a lot, thought about them a lot this year, and I think it's really cool, simply enough, that Pokemon Sun and Moon included those Pokemon back in the game again.
And in such a unique way. Changing
Putting
it up,
sunglasses on them and froze.
I mean, exactly. But just changing up, I think it was when they started showing off the Alola versions of the original 151, and Vulpix was an ice type in this game. I was like, I'm in. That's great. That's not even that huge a change.
I agree. And you know why this matters so much is because in Pokemon, you really are just collecting.
Yeah.
The game is about collecting. I know it's about fighting and competition for some people. For me, I just want to finish my decks. And I love just walking around finding like these classic Pokemon, different variations of them. I knew them all. I didn't feel like out of touch. Like I don't know like 400 Pokemon.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes I'm turned off by that in games, contemporary Pokemon games. So I've played a lot of them. I just really like that. And also they sped up a lot of the, like you get a way to get around fast pretty quickly, stuff like that. It's still a little bit slow in the beginning.
I feel like the first few hours are a little bit slow, but I can honestly say that I haven't been this into a Pokemon game since probably Ruby Sapphire.
Totally.
Yeah.
And Hawaii is an awesome
It's so
setting.
good, and the music is killer.
It's different. It feels different, and like everywhere, it's like it looks like the islands of Hawaii. I love Hawaii, and
Everybody's
I think
calling
it's
you
really
cousin.
cool.
It's great.
Love it. So I love the UI changes. I do agree the beginning of any Pokemon game could be kind of a drag, but the first island has some of the best Pokemon variety I've seen in the first section of a Pokemon game in a long time. I feel like they really drilled down and thought about what can we speed up and what can we fix. Let's change the structure of the gyms. Instead, let's try these island challenges and sort of just try something different. And on a 20th anniversary year, where they already had a lot of big reminders of what Pokemon was as a franchise, to introduce the Alola forms was, I agree with you guys, a very, very smart move to
it's such a
continue that
subtle
momentum.
change, but it's so smart, you know.
I completely agree with you. So then our next game is Zero Time Dilemma, which is by Chunsoft. This is a cult hit, I feel like. 999 and the game for is Virtue's Last Reward. Much like those games, Zero Time Dilemma is about these really tense decisions and how they affect the story and how the novel unfolds. And you thinking, okay, if I don't choose this fast enough, there is a consequence behind that. And you really feel the weight of it as it affects these characters as you try to play the game. I feel like this has always been sort of a quiet cult hit that we always hear about and we always feel intimidated by because you have to go back and play those games. Full disclosure, I still need to go through Virtue's Last Reward, but playing Zero Time Dilemma, I was very surprised by how grabbed that was by it all. And I feel that was sort of surprising to me because I didn't expect to be.
Well, it's also, these games kind of stand alone in the 3DS's catalog, you know? Like this is basically a 3DS adaptation of Saw or something, you know, like where you're forced to make these really serious decisions, right? For these characters. And I think it's a very unique game that everybody should take a look at.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Would you say that it's sort of analogous to like Danganronpa on Vita in the way that it's...
to some degree. I mean, it's the same sort of, it's a similar visual graphic novel style. So yes. Those games can be very hit or miss for me. I was very surprised how well this grabbed me.
See, I love a good Danganronpa, but I have yet to play Virtue's Last Reward or Zero Time Dilemma.
Check it out. So another game on our list is Fire Emblem Fates, another Intelligent Systems turn-based RPG masterpiece, but this one had 3 parts. So we had Birthright, we had Conquest, we had Revelations. We scored them all. Pear, why is this a 3DS nominee for best of Nintendo 3DS category?
I'm a big fan of Awakening, right, which came before it.
And the series as a whole.
And the series. I played them since the very beginning, and Awakening had this cool kind of time travel element, right, where you recruit your children and they join your army, and depending what characters paired up, you get different children with different powers and stuff. And Fates took that, but then added this really cool kind of this branching story system that I really haven't seen before, where your choice really mattered. Like, do you go with the people that you grew up with, or do you go with the people that you should have grown up with? And it wasn't about making a right or a wrong choice, but it was really kind of picking between the light and the dark side, only that in the end, it, of course, was a lot more gray than that.
The dark side had nice people.
There
were folks you grew up with and actually liked your company.
Yeah.
I thought that was an interesting way to present it.
And then, but your choice really mattered because, like, most people bought one version, and like you get to this pivotal point in the story where you basically have to say, I'm now going to lock out the other branch unless you buy it extra. There was some crossover with some reused stuff across the different missions, but they all had kind of a unique approach to the levels and the way the story flowed, and so it was actually worth playing all three through.
There's the first one and the second one are really different from one another because they severely limit you in the second one. It makes it much harder. And then the third one is more like the first one. It's like more like a traditional Awakening. I was going to add that decision point is really interesting if you play them in order because you can choose one family, and then when you play it a second time, you play against basically the characters you've played as the first time, so you know their weaknesses and you know their units really well. And I know there's analogous family members, but like it's really interesting.
And you don't feel good.
No,
going
you
up
don't
against
feel
them,
good.
right?
It's
like being in this war, being caught between two fronts. Like who do you root for? And then on top of that, you of course had this great turn-based combat system that Nintendo, Intelligent Systems has really perfected over the years, where you team up characters and have to have them fight side by side. You use the kind of the weapons triangle to make sure that the right people attack the right people. There were surprises on some of the maps. On the north side, if you went that route, they were like weird rules, like you have to beat this level in X rounds.
I reviewed the north side in Conquest, and I have to say it was the masterclass version. Like where Birthright was like so forgiving and like, hey, you can just fight all you want and gain that XP and grind through it.
That you can grind.
Conquest was like, no, you have fewer resources and you're gonna have to make this work. And to me, that was like, wait, what? I have to make this battle come together based on these mission parameters, and it felt like every mission threw something new at you, which was also something I really appreciated about it.
Yep. Yeah. And then really pretty artwork, of course, right?
I was
It
say
has this
maybe the best looking game on 3DS.
Yeah, this mature anime style with feet, and beautiful music, awesome, awesome sound design all around. It's just, I mean, the Fire Emblem games have gotten so good. I wish, Intelligent Systems should make lots more, but take maybe a break making Advance Wars from me too.
Oh, that'd be nice. That'd be nice. So then we have Monster Hunter Generations. This was by Capcom. The Monster Hunter series is another one of the cult favorites to me. It's one that I've championed in this office as many times as I can.
You disappear. Whenever a new one comes out, I feel like you're gone. We don't see you for days.
And the review process is always fun. This one is sort of the super champion edition to the Street Fighter 2 that was the last one, right? The last one was this big leap in terms of adding jumping and adding like more mobility options. This one was about like crazy finishing move plus more over the top hunts. It didn't feel as complete as 4. 4 felt like the next step for Monster Hunter, whereas this feels like just a slight iteration on that formula.
Does it seem like a good place to start with Monster Hunter?
Oh, that's always the eternal question on
sequels. If you
sequels.
have a friend, it's always good, right?
Yeah, it takes a village to raise a hunter and Monster Hunter. Yeah, you have to commit to like a Reddit group, or you have to commit to like friends who you meet on the internet or who play the game.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just way better that way. Like they have done a better job with each game of introducing folks to how the stories work, although I do think they did a better job in 4 than they did this time around. But there are still ways that you can investigate how that stuff works. It's such a deep game. Like there is something to be said about a game that can turn sometimes a 20-minute to half-hour boss fight into this endurance trial that feels like just like something out of the end of a boxing movie, and it just comes down to it's me or it's you, and one of us is going down, and when I'm done taking you out, I'm going to turn you into a hat, and I'm going to enjoy that. And that's creepy because that didn't happen in
Rocky. Turn you into a hat. See, I on paper I should love Monster Hunter, and I played a fair amount of 4 at your behest.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it enough, but I've never stuck it out to get that really like in really deep with Monster Hunter. Yeah. And I feel like each one that comes out, I think this is going to be the one. But I stayed away from Generations because I knew I didn't have the time to devote to it. But I've only heard awesome things about it.
Yeah, no, you need a group. I think that's really important. And luckily, it has online options and it has ways for you to invest. And there are always communities on the internet for you to join and learn more about it. And I suggest that you do if you're willing to give it the time. But if you do, this game you will sink hours into this game, much like Fire Emblem, much like Pokemon. Like a lot of the games we mentioned today, I feel like the very deep like RPG-like games is where you can just dump a ton of time. And this is one of those places.
You can pick up one game and play it all year. And we should mention like Monster Hunter, if you're not aware, is like just the biggest game in Japan. Like
it's
huge.
It's like probably one of the top 3 biggest like series right now in Japan. So millions of people can't be wrong.
Yeah.
I think we need to figure it out. What's going on with it?
Yeah, no, definitely. And I do want to reemphasize, for me, the only lacking effort was, I feel 4 was really this next step. Like, I mean, I felt like they introduced a lot more weapons. They introduced more styles. There was a lot more. They got rid of swimming, which swimming was this Monster Hunter 3 mechanic that was just boring to fight because anytime you missed a monster, you felt like, oh, well, now I got to swim up to it again and try and get to it. Whereas on land, you don't really have that problem. It sounds similar, but trust me, it's not. You move way slower underwater. And all of those things really just coalesced into, okay, this is an iteration on 4's formula, but this isn't necessarily the next significant leap.
Feels
for it.
similar to Fire Emblem. that sense.
That's a good way to put it. No,
Maybe
true,
even
true.
Pokemon.
Yeah. Although I gotta say,
iterations.
I love Fire Emblem's just 3-chapter story thing. I think you're absolutely right. And you hit that on the head
So
in
clever,
terms of that idea.
It's a lot of game.
Yeah.
It was. I have to say, it was daunting. At one point, I'm like, no, I just want one. Don't do this, right? Don't split it, because I didn't want to have to choose. But it's just, if you love a game like that, they don't come around that often.
Yep.
It's cool to have the option to play them all three.
I feel like that's the story of this game, though, is like the people that I know that really loved Fire Emblem this year played the Fates or Conquests, depending on which version they started with, and were like, well, I got this one, so I'm going to play this one. But when they finish it, they're like, well, now I got to play the other one. And then when they finish that, well, now I got to play the third one. They had to get the full story.
Yeah, to get the full experience. Let's talk about some honorable mentions, right?
Why not?
Because
games that didn't make it.
Let's do it.
It's always tough when we put together these lists. It leads to a lot of just, okay, so I'm just going to name some, but feel free to pick one and talk about it. We don't have to talk about them all. So Dragon Quest VII Fragments of the Forgotten Past came out this year. That was a remake of the original DQ7. Box Boy, The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess HD, Bravely Second End Layer, Star Fox Guard, Sonic Boom Fire and Ice, and Picross 3D Round 2 are just some of the other games that were on Nintendo platforms this year. And it wasn't a great year for Nintendo overall. Definitely on both platforms it felt a little weird, but pick one of those. Which one would you like to talk about?
First of all, I mean, you have two big remakes, right? Dragon Quest 7, which if you've never played a Dragon Quest game, it's a good one to start with. Yeah. Charming characters. They streamlined a lot of kind of things that felt hokey and slow, and you know, it's a with, again, like beautiful music, great JRPG. And then you have Twilight Princess, you know, a fantastic Zelda game. You know, when that first came out, everybody thought it was the best thing ever, and then this weird kind of aversion developed over time, saying it was too long, too ugly, whatnot. Go back to it. It's really good.
I think that's the thing. When Twilight Princess first came out, it was not my favorite Zelda game. Like, I love Zelda. It's by far and away my favorite franchise. Twilight Princess left me feeling a little cold.
Because of the wolf mechanic, or what was it?
The length of the intro, the wolf mechanic, it's just a little dark for my taste in a Zelda game. But going back to it, I was really impressed in this HD remake. I was really impressed at how little that stuff that had bothered me so much in 2006 didn't bother me this time around. Like, the intro didn't feel as long. The story was dark, but it was, it's so much more mature than other Zelda games. And the remake, the remaster that these guys put out, it's beautiful. Like, it looks
How does
gorgeous.
the Amiibo support? Did you use that at all?
Amiibo support is cool. I mean, it's just a dungeon. It's an added dungeon.
An endless, like, not endless, but like a challenge dungeon.
Yeah, I just want to add a quick footnote for folks. Twilight Princess HD didn't make the list because remakes don't make.
They're not
usually,
qualified.
Otherwise,
or remasters.
Like
a remake would.
A Zelda game would always be on any list. But for sure.
Exactly.
But it's also like the Midna story, I thought was really compelling,
cool,
and like the end is just awesome.
Yeah.
Some really cool dungeons. I mean, when you find that whole desert area in the game, it's just you're like, my God, there's more to this game. The whole river, there's just so much.
Some of the best boss fights in the series.
Yeah, it gets better the deeper you get in it, and it definitely gets. It's all about the dungeons. The dungeons are some of the best dungeons I think that have been in Zelda. Another to talk about, like Star Fox Guard and even Box Boy. Like,
no, I really like Star Fox Guard. Was just a disc that came with Star Fox,
a little bonus,
and it was a little bonus disc. But it was designed by Shigeru Miyamoto and shown off at E3, and like it was like its own standalone thing. And it's probably the last chance you'll get to experience a game that was like, we're gonna make this a game that'll only work on the Wii U,
right?
And you have to kind of juggle two screens, and it's just really, really hard. What the game does is it shows you a bunch of camera angles of a base that's being invaded, and then you have to kind of work with each camera to attack the things invading the base.
Like Watch Dogs.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Well, yeah. Somewhat. And, you look at it and you say, that's going to be easy, no problem. And then it just falls apart immediately.
Yeah, it's interesting how you can turn multitasking like that into a game mechanic that adds this layer of stress that has you sort of freaking out. If other people in the room, it becomes a shouting match. You kind of feel like you're getting yelled at the whole time because they're like, three, go to 3. And someone else is yelling 5 and someone else is yelling 11.
Jose.
Yeah, we're just trying to make your play uncomfortable.
But then it also has these little kind of surprise elements where something happens to your cameras that you didn't expect. Like, the deeper you get in the game, the more they mess with your expectations, right? Like, you thought you were safe doing a certain thing, and then there is an enemy that again subverts your expectations. I think it's really clever.
Bonus points for Grippy.
Yep. And then Picross 3D round 2.
Oh,
which
man.
That's your favorite thing, like, of all time.
So I love the
His
Picross
favorite
games.
thing of all time.
I think so.
I love all the Picross games. And the 3D game just takes that concept of, like, I mean, basically it's like Sudoku, like any kind of like crossword, like kind of numbers-based game. And like with this, you have these 3D shapes that you have to uncover by making the right decisions based on the numbers that you're given. And it's so deceptively simple, and then it gets more and more complicated. And then, you know, what I like to do is just kind of get top honors on every level by being faster, you know, as fast as I can be. The moment you want to be fast, you make mistakes, and it's just so painful when you do, right? It's like, boom. Really, really cool game. I imported the Japanese version, and then afterwards still played through the US one again, which is kind of weird, right? It's an awesome game if you're on an airplane or you're traveling. It's just you can play a couple of minutes, put it away, but you really can't put it away. It's
Also,
really
this
addictive.
game has some pretty cool amiibo support too.
Yeah, it has like these
amiibo-based puzzles.
Yeah.
I just like the fact that it sort of tickles your brain with, oh man, how many, like you're just doing these math puzzles that aren't math puzzles essentially, because it's not math, but you're following all these numbers to find which blocks you should delete and which ones you shouldn't, and you're just sitting there the whole time not wanting to mess up, especially if you're trying to hit a high score, which I fall into that trap. I feel every time I pick up a Picross 3D game.
And you get to this point where you're looking at the shape, you're like, nope, you cannot use logic to solve this. Like, I'm sure you've gotten to this. You look at it, it's like, it's impossible.
That doesn't look like a duck.
And there is a solution to each one of these that does not require trial and error. It's always, you can logically solve every puzzle, and it's just so well designed.
Yeah, sometimes they really do turn into something. You're like, how the heck was that it?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it really surprised
a log
me.
cabin.
Well,
Sounds like a blast.
and Box Boy and Box Boy, like I can't believe how fun it must be and difficult it must be to design the puzzles. Like, I love solving the puzzles in Box Boy, but like, I'm amazed how many there are. It's such a simple rule set, and it's just like every
many
time I'm
permutations on a
challenged with
theme,
something,
yeah.
there's so many permutations.
Yep.
It's such smart game design.
And like with Box Boy, you feel like a genius for figuring out something, and like you still have boxes left
Or
at
like
the
an
end of the
idiot.
level.
I've spent 2
you know, like
days.
the
More like an
drop
I've
drop
spent 2
half
days
of
on
a
being
box
stumped,
down,
you know?
and like it's so good.
Yeah, there is an elegance to that game's design that continues to impress me, despite
good word.
with Box Boy specifically. Like, this is a sequel, so you kind of know the rules going in, and then they go, "Hey, you can make another box this time." And you're like, "Well, how does that make it harder?" And then you find out, "Oh man, actually it can." And it will.
You're like wearing a shield. Basically, you create yourself a little shield you put on top of you, and then push it up with another box. Like, they have so many different ways the two boxes can interact that were absent from the first game, and I think that made it really special. Just that kind of, it really is a new level on top of the first one.
Absolutely, I agree. Well, I mean, we've gone through our nominees. Those are our honorable mentions, and I mean, that's a wrap. Thank you, Zach. Thank you, Pear.
Thanks.
Thank you, Sam.
Yeah.
And thank you for watching Nintendo Voice Chat right here on YouTube. And you know what? You have a chance at winning the game nominee of your choice. All you have to do is sign up to youtube.com/Nintendo Voice Chat and leave a comment with your guess as to who the winner is. Now, the winners will be announced on January 6th, and we'll get in contact with you to let you know if you won a prize. Lastly, you can check out our PlayStation and Xbox nominees, so make sure that you check those out as well. And for everything video games, you're already in the right place, right here at IGN.